very good Sunday morning to you all. It's about 4:45 a.m. on an Australian Father's Day, and I've just started what's going to be about a 3-hour long run / hike / walk adventure around Ferny Grove, Ferny Hills, probably back through Ferny Hills, and any areas that kind of connect to that. I'm just heading up a fairly steep incline in Samford Conservation Park, and it runs for about another 600 meters, but you gain about a meter vertical for every 10 meters forward, so it's consistent. But given I'm going to be on my feet for 3 or so hours, I've allowed myself to essentially walk the ups, the really steep ups, so that I don't drain myself too much. So if I was going for a shorter run, I'd probably run this, and I have done it a few times. I think I've said it before, but I've just got to pinch myself as to how close some of these trailheads are to my front door, so I'm tremendously lucky. I don't know if the camera will do a good job of this. It's on night mode, but it is dark. Really dark. It's a full moon, but it's not really making its way through the canopy too effectively. But yeah, we're probably about 45 minutes until light starts to make its way over the horizon. Yeah. Whole objective of today is just to spend time on feet. I am absolutely going to be the person that clears the majority of spider webs that have been constructed across the parts of the trail that I complete. But yeah, just looking to spend a few hours on my feet. I'm fully kitted out. I've got my ultimate direction trail running backpack on. I've got about 1.5 liters of fluid in there with tailwind in it. I've got some gels. I've got a Cliff Bar if I need extra calories, but typically I don't. And if I'm not really pushing it over 3 hours, I don't think I'll need it. But should be pretty exciting. Yeah, should get home around 7:30 and be available for the remainder of the day with my kids. So I'll probably start checking back in once the light starts to appear. unless anything of note happens between now and then. Alright, which I hope it doesn't. So I don't really want to encounter things that go bump in the night. Starting to reap the rewards of being up early, getting after it. First of the daylight for the day. Should time this pretty nicely actually. I'll be running easterly toward the sun. So kickstart my circadian rhythm properly for the day. Get a nice dosage, or whatever it is Dr. Huberman says. Teddy there? Of course. Ever vigilant. Whoa. Spotted an owl. Kookaburra's laughing at me, welcoming me in the day. Temperature must have dropped about 2 degrees immediately, just as I exited that forest. Alright, back a little later. We're in Ferny Hills right now. It's really looking like it's going to be a pretty splendid day. There was a bit of cloud cover when I left, but it looks like it's already essentially burned off. So, yeah. Looks like it's going to be a great run and then just continue to be lovely. But before I left the house this morning, I had told myself that, and I'd set myself the goal that today didn't have to be in any way, shape or form hard or fast. So I thought, you know, by averaging out the sections you can run and the sections you can walk, like the steep hills, you're probably going to land somewhere of an average pace of about 7 minutes if you split the difference. So maybe I can get in around 24k in 3 hours, which is the goal. But of course, when you somewhat allow yourself to think that and don't apply any pressure to really go for a particular pace, or a fast pace I should say, you feel rather fantastic, and then you just want to go after it. So now the challenge becomes trying to will yourself to continue to take it easy. But you do have the option to just work a little bit harder because you're feeling great. I mean, yeah, We're averaging 6:48 pace right now. Heart rate's well within zone 2. So nice easy aerobic. Gonna continue to improve upon that locomotive. On Bunyaville Road right now, and I'm going to turn down Jinker in a sec, which I always enjoy. I've been filming these videos with the DJI Action 5 Pro, and it was one of those moments where the outlay was, well, it felt significant, but when you consider it relative to the cost of a lot of other things today, it really isn't. But from a technology standpoint, I've never really played that game of having the latest and greatest. I've only ever had computers, necessary for the task at hand, which is mostly work, and it's company supplied. So all of this is to say that I could probably spend more on the latest and greatest supporting tools, editing tools, but I'm finding that having the camera and the app on my phone is really enough at this point to quickly slap together some fairly no frills type of content. And gets it out there on YouTube relatively quickly, and I can save it to file. But one of the things I didn't really think about was, when I bring the camera with me, I'm finding that having a task at hand, thinking about, oh, that might be nice to record, or you've had a thought that you'd like to share, is keeping me honest, which I just didn't really anticipate. So in some ways it's a pocket-sized motivational tool to just keep me energized to want to get out there and explore. I mean, the other thing is it's just been fantastic from a family perspective, because if we go do something nice, I just slip this thing in the backpack, and then if it makes sense, I reckon can record some things for the family, and if not, well, we just don't worry about it. But at least the option exists. So it's kind of gotta be careful on my verbal crutches here, but it's worked out to be one of those situations or purchases where it's like, oh boy, I should have done this a while ago. Other recent purchases that kind of fall into that category, but perhaps even more effectively, we bought a RoboVac for the house, and it's just fantastic. Just one less job amongst all the other jobs of being a parent to young kids and full-time work and trying to meet a multitude of expectations, including your own, which are often, far beyond what they need to be. If being a father's taught me anything, it's, you need to be prepared to go a little bit easier on yourself and perhaps not hold yourself to such high expectations, because really all you need is for your kids to be happy and healthy, and then let the rest of it come along for the ride. I suppose you need yourself to be happy and healthy as well, but I tend to find that out on the run. Anyway, on the Jinka track now, things are looking nice. Still sticking to the plan. Walking up fairly steep hills, keeping that heart rate low. I'm averaging about 6 minutes 40 at the moment, so got plenty of time to in the buffer below 7 minutes, so feeling great. Heart hasn't really gone above 160, which is for me quite good. My heart rate zones have always been quite high relative to the simple standardized formula of 220 minus your age. My max heart rate I can still, if I push hard enough, get up to 199, 200. So for me to be sitting around 160 and below over 16 or so K is not too bad. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep at it. Ticked over 18k, probably. We're at 2 hours. I'm guessing somewhere between 6 and 7k ago. Taking it easy. Probably take us to 2 hour 40. Gonna go through the park here. Never really done that before. Been to the park plenty of time with the kids, but haven't really cut through it. But meets up at the Kedron Brook, so I'm always surprised the number of times you can smell cigarettes, but no person around seemingly smoking them. Could be that person over there. So much he carries. Mind-boggling. The fatigue is starting to kick in. Just cumulative, not like acute muscle soreness or anything, just being on your feet for 2 hours, being out since 4:30 a.m. Starts to take a toll. Also, it's been a really busy week work-wise. Had to fly over to Perth, facilitate some training sessions and come back. Spent about 36 hours, well, not even that, maybe 30 hours in Perth. and had to be back in Brisbane for project kickoff. So landed at about 1 a.m. and then was in the office by 8. It doesn't happen too regularly, so it's okay. But certainly wasn't firing on all cylinders come Friday afternoon, which is generally the case, but it was even more noticeable this week. Anyway, yeah, so we're probably about 6 k's to go now, and I am very familiar with this part of the run. I often end up on this somehow on the way home. It just seems to work well, which also means I'm quite aware of the sections that annoy me. Filming while I walk the hills now because it's the only time that my breathing is light enough to convey any words, which indicates to me that we're about 2 hours 20 in, 22 kilometers. So the part of the training now where my aerobic conditioning and volume has slipped over the last few weeks is sort of rearing its head. So I'm finding there's a lot of work now, and my heart has now moved above 162 into like zone 3. So still not bad, but I'm getting up to 170s now, and probably sitting at an average of 165, with the exception of right now because I'm walking. But it's just interesting from a biomechanics standpoint, what's happening when you're starting to experience fatigue, and you can't devote as much energy anymore to making sure that your stride and the movement of your arms is how it should be. I'm crossing the midline a lot now, so which I aim to not do, because it starts to move you side to side and you just burn unnecessary energy. So it's still enjoyable, but a little more challenging now, which is to be expected. But I got a series of pretty steep ups in this section, so I'm just gonna take them easy. When I moved to Canada, I really had to work on my articulation, because some of the Australian lexicon and colloquialisms and pronunciation made it challenging for North Americans to understand. So one thing that I say gonna a lot now that I've moved back. I had to force myself to say going to in Canada, but I've slipped back into my old Aussie ways, and not sure how I feel about it. I'm also swearing a fair bit more these days. That I got absolutely wiped from the North American parlance. They were not really interested in bad language, but what I will say is that they used it more effectively to add emphasis to things. So if someone did swear, it was a true sign of them being either relatively irritated, which is challenging to do to a Canadian, get them to a state of irritation like that, or they truly were trying to emphasize the point that they were making. So, I mean, different industries have different tolerances. I did work construction for a little while, and of course there is an abundance of bad language regardless of where you work in that industry, it seems. But once I got into my professional job in Canada, it was night and day different compared to what we used to say in Australia. So, but old habits are coming back, and again, I'm not necessarily sure how I feel about that. I was quite proud of myself for not being too much of a potty mouth while I was in Vancouver. So sometimes I still don't swear as much as I used to, but I still think I could do better. So maybe that's a goal I set for myself, in amongst all the other bloody goals. We're getting close now. We're probably 2k out from home, which puts me at about 24.5k, which is bang on the money. Although we will complete that quicker than 3 hours, so probably land at about an hour 40. So that's good too. So I get to go home and chill out for a bit. I used to fast until noon, but I'm finding some days I could do it quite easily. Some days it was a real challenge, so now I'm typically selecting for a big bowl of oatmeal in the morning, which I think, if you're going to break your fast, I may as well be. Alright, that pretty much wraps up another one. We're at 23.5k. I've got about a k to go. Pretty happy that I ended up achieving what I set out to do. Yeah, so really great start to the day, and it actually, I was saying that it looked like it was going to be quite sunny, but there's some clouds rolling in, so I think it might end up being a bit of a cooler day, which is not too bad, because it is starting to get hot already here. So I'll take it. Anyway, if you're watching these, thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. Please feel free to provide comments as to how I can improve it. But it's meant to be no frills and pretty rough and ready. I don't really edit these, I just slap them together and put them on. So enjoy your day.